Wow, was so surprised when I saw this film. I didn't know what to expect, but you guys have made a truly standout film. I have so many questions, but I think the first thing that I have to ask is, how did you find the story to tell?
It was, I think, like many other people in around 2014-15, I was pretty stunned by what was happening around me, by those very, very young people in thousands from all over the world going to Syria to join ISIS, and truly didn't understand what on earth anyone would want to do there. And so I got very interested in the way that ISIS was manipulating these young people, the way that they talked to them over
social media.
Yeah, social media, exactly, the internet videos. And it's a subject I'm very passionate about for many reasons. And so I think that was the first kind of, that was what got me into the film. And then I started meeting some of those young women who came back, who told me about this house, these houses that they were locked into. And the more research I did, the more I was stunned by just the level of strategic,
indoctrination and sort of,
and just kind of this, it was like a Stasi-like setting that they had, that I created in order for these women to basically turn into birth machines. And that was something that I remembered from the Second World War. The Nazis had these places called Lebensborn, which was the same idea, basically locking women into a house in order to make as many children as possible, to then be able to take over the world. So it's a pretty similar, totally mad fantasy. And so I thought the parallel was fascinating and dangerous, and therefore worth making a film about.
I was struck so much by the tone that you managed in the movie. I mean, it feels at the same time sort of has a kind of Bill Brandt, Dorothea Lange immediacy of a very realized world that feels immediate and almost documentary, and yet it's so expressionistic that at each turn the horrors that you see that she's experiencing are actually being seen in the way that you're staging things and the way that you're decorating things. And to that end, I guess, you know, there's this beautiful Nation of Two that you have with Jessica and Layla, you know, that moment on the airplane as you're going through, and how it is that you got these performances that felt so lived in and authentic. Could you talk about how you worked with the actors, and if you did any rehearsals, or how you were able to get such fantastic performances?
Well, they're very good actors, so that helps.
90%. There you go.
Yes. So casting was important. It was important that they not only had the kind of range to play those parts, but also the kind of political awareness, maybe, and curiosity about the subject, and willingness to throw themselves into such a part, which is really not easy. They got on really well, those two girls. So those moments of kind of those affectionate
feels almost like a
moments.
romance. It's
Yes.
like it's so connected. I mean,
that was what I was hoping that you would see in there. For me, it's a love story, something that they probably don't know themselves, but that's a very strong motivation for those two girls to go there together. And then to get back to your other question, the way we worked was with that I shared a lot my research, because I really wanted them to understand what was going on, to understand these women, because it's not easy to understand them. And then I think a crucial moment was when I introduced the actresses to some of these women, and I could really feel, just like it was for me, that really changed something, because it's such a crazy world that it's difficult to actually imagine that it A, existed, and B, somebody lived it. And so I could see in the way that they were preparing their role, that the moment somebody gives you tells you their experience, you have a sort of responsibility towards them, because you're not just playing a part, you're playing someone's life, and that I think made it very real for them, and added a layer of I can't fuck it up now.
No, a kind of authenticity where they were able to
Exactly.
live it in the scenes. I mean, I think the thing in any of these times when you go to these spaces where you feel a kind of I'm at a loss for gender apartheid. You know, these worlds where women live very different lives, completely separated from men, and yet there are these moments of levity and tenderness. You know, the bathing scenes. You know, the way that they put on clothes. I thought that was, you know, sort of interesting because I feel like you start the film so elegantly with showing how it is that someone in a Western democracy that takes so many of the things that have been fought for so many generations, have been so long ago and are so out of touch for young people, and yet what they feel are the inequities. And you know, it's like a nearsighted utopia where it's like, well, we can make this better now, you know, and this immediacy in this kind of social media world where it's like, oh, well, ISIS is fighting against this inequity, why don't I go join them? And they're preying on these kind of romantic ideals, like whether I remember reading I'm a very big fan of the film, if you can't say that already. But in an interview, you said that you had read a story about a couple that had dreamed of blowing up the Eiffel Tower and then spending the rest of their marriage and eternity in paradise. And I was wondering if you could just talk about the idea of, like, there seems to be this sort of breakdown of the social contract in westernized democracies, and how that can actually, I think, authentically and sort of romantically be preyed upon by these people that are looking to, you know, change the world quickly in these revolutions. Do you have any feelings like that? I hope I'm not bringing.
No. It's very true what you're saying. So the very first article I wrote was about this couple who decided to blow up the Eiffel Tower and to then get married, then blow up the tower, and then go to paradise directly because they just blew up the tower. That plan failed. But there were others like that with Notre Dame, I think, where it really was 5 women who tried to do a terrorist attack. So there were several attacks by women planned that didn't work out, but still were very close, which I thought was interesting. And basically, I think what I understood through it was that ISIS used extremely beautiful, very, very basic human needs and emotions in order to kind of pervert them and put them into and use them for their ideology. And that these women, a lot of them, I could actually, to some level, understand what drew them towards this sort of sect. Like all other sects, it promised a huge family, belonging, friendship. You join them and immediately you have hundreds of friends. You're part of a group. You're loved. You're admired. You are someone. Your life suddenly makes sense because they come with this huge set of rules, which is very reassuring. Of you know what to do when you wake up in the morning. You already know what time you wake up. Then what you do when you wake up. They tell you what to say, to who to talk, what to do all day. Not only today, but for the next, I don't know how many years until the end of your life. And they even tell you what happens after you die, which is great. I would like to know that. So you get all the answers.
The whole handbook. You get it all. Yeah, that's right.
It's wonderful. How, So I can understand that if you're a lost teenager or if you're, deeply traumatized individual, or just many of them just said, I was in such a bad place that whoever would have knocked at my door, I would have gone for it. Heroin, the Jehovah's Witnesses, or ISIS. I didn't care. I just needed something to hold on to. And I think there are a lot of people like that around, especially in the world that we live in today, which really seriously gives little hope or space to dream for anyone. So it makes total sense to me that those kind of systems, or what would you call them in English? Those organizations.
Absolutely, the infrastructure, the social infrastructure. I mean, there's a book when we cease to understand the world that came out, a Chilean author, and he kind of gets into these ideas of where things are breaking down. But before I go,
that would have been much better title, by the way.
No, the thing that I was so struck by is it's such an incredibly important film and such a great story to tell right now. But it's a lot of times, sometimes that can overshadow the cinema. And the imagery in this is so self-assured and so gorgeous, but also just draws you in with a kind of emotional reality that, again, I feel like a lot of these, inspired by true event story. I mean, the imagery that you've made is stunning. I mean, I was just immediately bought in when you see her working her day job at this hospital in these beautifully composed, pieces of photography, these perspective shots where she's literally disappearing in the vanishing point, and then you see her coming into her own when she becomes the proctor in the dormitory, and she emerges, and it's one of the first times you see her coming into the horizon, into it.
The director.
And so I mean, obviously you worked with a legend, who I'm a huge fan of. Can you talk about how you worked with Agnès and what you did? And I mean, opening it up obviously to you guys, I would love to hear.
Agnès Godard is the DOP on the film, and it was very important to me to work with someone with a lot of life experience, who's in a different stage. She's 70, a bit over 70 now, and yes, it's done wonderful films. It's a subject that, to be very honest, scared me for a first film. I felt I had to do it, but I was very intimidated by it, and I really liked the idea that she'd been in this world longer, and that she has a view onto it that brings a form of distance, and that between the two of us we can negotiate our place around how to look at this story, and that worked out well. The way that we worked with light and how to film it was there were two main questions. I think one was the distance to the character. Yeah. Because it was very important to me that at any moment of the film, the spectator could decide if they wanted to follow her, if they wanted to keep liking her, if they wanted to change their mind, and kind of have the critical distance of checking with themselves, so not to manipulate them into just blindly following a character into hell. But asking themselves the question, what would I have done, which is an important question to me as a German. Until the very end, really, until do I want her to die? Do I want her to live? And what does that say about me? What does it say about her? So that was a big factor in choosing the distance and the angle. And about the light, because I've never been in this place, I didn't want to pretend to know what it looked like. So for me, it was more important to create a kind of psychological space that works more on an unconscious level of feeling how those women would have felt in that kind of place. How do I feel about it, and also incorporate some of the more theoretical ideas behind it, which is the idea of this factory of this birth-giving factory, really. So we shot in an old tobacco factory, which allowed us through it.
Where was it? Where was the location?
In the south of France, the inside, and the outside was in Jordania. We cheated that one.
No, I mean that flight from Raqqa that you have is just, it's like it's every great movie ever when you can have that perfectly realized, where your character is just seeing the devastation outside as they're going through it and trying to catalog what we've all seen in that cathartic moment. It's like the flight from Medina or Rome Open City. I mean, it's any of those things. How did you shoot that, and what went into it? Because it's just, I say it's not one, it's many shots sewn together in the car. But if you guys, how do you set that shot up? I mean, seeing the detritus and the...
You'll be so disappointed. It was real footage from a journalist, shot exactly in the same months.
Even better.
That our film ended, because we didn't have the budget to recreate something. I'm always disappointed, even with very big budget war films. You kind of feel that it's not true. So for me, it was really important in the moment of where the character realizes that she's in hell, basically, because that's the transition from heaven to hell, really. That tells the film that this moment of realization is shared by us, and that we get a sense of, and even if it's just an unconscious feel of something that is really totally destroyed. And Raqqa is one of the most destroyed cities in the world, over 80%. Since Vietnam, I think that hasn't happened. So it was really important to us to make that link, even though we're in a fictional film, to a very, very, total reality, which is still.
Well, I always think it was Wim Wenders that was talking about the dog shots in Buena Vista Social Club, and he said every great image in cinema has to have a dog. So when the dog's jumping over, I was like, so even if for
me it was a cat.
There was a cat. There you go. So even better.
Spectator.
And but to that end, could you also? There's that tremendous sense of fear and loathing that you are able to curate throughout the film, and could you talk a little bit about the madam? Lubna Azabal, and what it was like to cast someone like her and be able to get it. She really inhabits that in a way that felt very human and yet totally terrifying.
I was really lucky with Lubna, so I saw her in Denis Villeneuve's film Incendie. What is it in English? Incendie, yeah, as well. Okay, so that really struck me at the time. I really remembered that and watched it over and over again. And when I contacted her, what was really surprising to me was that Lubna knew this Moroccan woman that her character is based on, and had known her for quite a few known in the sense of followed her on the internet, tries to find little films about her, interviews, because she's quite well known apparently in the Arabic speaking world, and Lubna is an incredibly political person, and so we share the same fascination for highly intelligent mass murderers. So we had a wonderful lunch together that I don't recommend to anyone joining it, but for us it worked. And from there onwards, we had extensive discussions about all kinds of mad leaders, be it the Khmer Rouge people who also studied in France. So there was this link to the female tortionnaires. How do you say that? No, tortionnaire. The women who worked in the concentration camps, executioners. Yeah. Because there were a couple of interesting characters around. And so basically we tried to compose, because we wanted to keep as far away from Islam as possible, to make the film as universal as possible. So using lots of references from different totalitarian systems like that to compose her part.
So, because you now have a fan club with everyone who's here, what are you looking to try and do next? Are there other projects that are in the same vein as this that you're formulating currently, or things you're working on?
Yes, it's not very concrete yet, but having gone very far in the kind of death direction, I want to go very far in the life direction. So, so talking about sexual desire, female discovery of the body, and yes, going, me faire plaisir. How do you say? Enjoy myself a little, because those 8 years were tough.
I think you earned it for sure, certainly. And I guess, lastly, one thing that really I kept thinking, the way that you were able to, again, the group scenes. I kept thinking of the film Mustang, Denis. That there's this weird place in the devastation that we're all seeing around the world, where it does seem that there isn't a lot of female voice that's in it, and to find that where these women are in this place and so brave, that moment where she says, "Give me a gun and I'll just go to the front," and then she's sort of rejected by that. Did you feel like when you were making this movie with these actors, and I assume there's some locals that you cast in Jordan? Yeah. How can you talk about how it was that you were able to integrate people on location with your actors and create that sense of, I don't know, authenticity?
It was quite good fun, no?
This is a producer, by the way.
Yes, this is Lionel, my producer. Yes. So I'm trying to integrate him in this discussion. We had locals in the south of France, people who had never been in a movie, and it was quite tough to get them to act in a. So now your house is exploding. You're in Syria. You have children, and you're going to die. I mean, it's not soft acting. It's like, and it can be very ridiculous very quickly. So I was very grateful to have one of the women who had who had influenced the script with us on set, and her presence, I think, made a big difference. And there were a couple of group scenes where she actually spoke to the extras before the scene, to tell them how she experienced those moments, and I think that really made a big difference. And in Jordania, it was interesting because some of the actors we didn't speak the same language. It was because on the roof, if you remember, when they all go Allahu Akbar,
and the little girls going, oh,
and
God,
for them
it's
something. It's a happy. It's really, that's what they say all day. And for us as French people, having gone through
your heartbeat goes a little faster, and you're thinking,
it's complicated after the attack on Charlie Hebdo, and so you find yourself in a very strange position sometimes, but I felt we managed quite well integrating them And I love mixing up the different nationalities and shooting with people in another part of the world and sharing not the same language but the same passion for cinema. So there's something
cathartic and very ameliorating of all playing pretend together. There's nothing better.
It's quite wonderful.
Yeah.